G'day, and thanks for joining me for another Humble Choice Smash or Pass for July 2025. If you're new to this series, each month I check out the offering of the Humble Choice bundle and compare reviews, value, and compatibility of each bundle. My goal is to provide you with all the information you need to decide. Will you smash the Choose Games button, or will you pass this time and hope for a better offering next month? It's been a mixed bag this year, with a few really strong months bookended by some weaker ones, in my opinion at least, so it will be intriguing to see what they've put together for us this month. It's worth mentioning that at the time of recording, there is a major Steam sale happening, which is why there might be so many games going for decent prices, and this will be reflected in my summary of each game. Anyway, let's get into it. Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. For the second month in a row, Humble Choice Bundle is headlined by a game set in the Warhammer universe. This time we have Rogue Trader, which is a turn-based CRPG with all the usual fare you'd expect from a game in this genre. There is a huge focus on lore and world building with vast amounts of quests and dialogue presented to you, so prepare yourself for a lot of reading. The tactical combat system expands on what is typically found in the genre though, adding elements like a cover system which is reminiscent of the modern XCOM games, adding some additional depth. Another notable system is this character builder, which gives you a huge amount of freedom and flexibility to develop characters in unique and interesting ways, ensuring diverse gameplay and replayability. The game was released in late 2023 and currently sells for about $70 Australian, though at the time of recording it is 50% off thanks to the aforementioned Steam sale. Either way, that price tag makes the cost of this bundle very good value. There are also a number of DLCs, including a couple of decently sized story expansions, though these aren't included in the bundle. The game is Steam Deck verified, and its turn-based nature might lend itself well for playing in situations where fast reflexes and precision aren't expected. The game has been well received, netting an overall very positive rating on Steam, with 85% of reviewers recommending the game. Gamers appreciate the writing, storytelling, and world building with interesting quests, impactful decisions, and a generally authentic take on the Warhammer universe. It's not just fan service for the Warhammer enjoyers though, with many regarding this as one of the best modern CRPGs going, which is a credit to the developers Owlcat Games, who now have a bit of a reputation for their enjoyable RPGs. On the flip side, there are a few negative aspects to the game as well. It is said to be still fairly buggy despite being a couple of years old, and the quality of the writing and quests does seem to diminish in the later chapters. Overall though, you are in for a good old-fashioned RPG experience if you jump into this one. Though I'm not really familiar with the Warhammer universe, I'd be keen to give this one a go. Cat Quest 3. Now I was a bit surprised to see a Cat Quest game in this bundle, possibly due to my own ignorance. I was vaguely aware of the series, but I'd always assumed it was just a mobile game. However, after I looked into it a little bit, I learned the series is featured on the PC and most major consoles since the first game released in 2017. This third entry is an action RPG with a quirky and charming 2.5D presentation. You adventure across the vast open world by land and sea, you solve puzzles, find hidden treasure, and develop your kitty's fighting ability. As a package, you get a fun, casual RPG experience with interesting combat and exploration. This game usually goes for about $30, but it is 40% off during this Steam sale. And it is Steam Deck verified, which is not all that surprising for a game seemingly designed to be played on the go. The game has an impressive 95% very positive rating on Steam from newcomers and long-term fans of the franchise alike, which shows that there is a lot of love and care that went into this one. Reviewers enjoy the fun, simple gameplay and large variety in exploration, combat and character builds. It is said to take a lot of what made the previous games good and expands on that with more content and some very welcome quality of life features. However, the game is also said to be quite short, even when compared to the previous installments, so there does appear to be a bit of a trade-off there. In short, it does look like a fun, casual little game to sink some hours into, but it's probably not something I'd go out of my way to play. Death's Door is an incredibly well-regarded indie game that is highly praised for its presentation, excellent combat, and engaging gameplay. I spent far too long trying to think of a clever way to describe this one, but all that kept coming to my mind was that this is what you'd get if you shoved a 2D Zelda game and Hollow Knight into a blender, complete with the incredibly well done combination of a cute, natural environment contrasting with the grim, dark industrial set pieces. Overall, Death's Door is an enjoyable combination of adventure, platforming and RPG elements, combined with a satisfying, Souls-like combat. Originally released in 2021, this one usually goes for about $30 Australian and is currently on sale for $7.50. It is Steam Deck verified, which is great news because this does feel like the kind of thing you'd want to play and enjoy on a handheld. The game boasts an impressive 93% positive rating on Steam, making it a much-loved entry by gamers and critics alike. Reviewers love the presentation and art style, praising the beautiful graphics, and they continue to bring up this Zelda cross Souls-like comparison quite frequently, noting that the exploration, puzzles, and challenging combat are finely tuned in terms of challenge and design. The soundtrack also gets a lot of love, which is not surprising considering the amount of care and effort that went into this game. Most of the negative reviews are some variation of, it's not a bad game, it's a good game, it's just not an amazing game. And the few that don't recommend it generally seem to agree that it doesn't excel in any one area, while still appreciating that it is a fun experience that isn't for everyone. Personally, I missed this one when it came out, but it does sound like something I'd really enjoy, so I might give this one a look. Daemon X Machina is an action-packed mech combat game that's big on character customization and big on explosions. Initially released on the Switch in 2019 to positive reviews, it eventually made its way to PC in 2020. Load out your mech with a range of parts and weapons to suit your playstyle, and then take to the battlefield, and take the fight to the corrupted mechs unfortunate enough to find themselves in your crosshairs. It's got a lot of character, with a huge anime influence, for better or for worse, and it also includes multiplayer in both cooperative and competitive game modes. The game retails for $70 on Steam, and at the time of recording is on sale for less than $20, so the Choice Bundle is still a great value way to get your hands on this one. Interestingly, it is not fully Steam Deck compatible, so if this is one you wanted to play on the go, the Switch version might be a better option for you. What's also interesting is the state of the reviews. Over its lifetime, the game has been rated at a healthy 86% very positive rating. However, the recent reviews dramatically dropped to 55% at a mixed rating. As we've seen before, this can often happen when a publisher or developer decides to add some ridiculous DRM or a branded launcher to the game, or even if they break it with an update. But what's happened here? Well, that's not entirely clear. Due to the age of the game, there aren't a whole lot of recent reviews, so even a handful of negative reviews over the past month or so is enough to heavily skew this recent rating. And looking at those reviews, there are a lot of complaints that the game isn't Armored Core 6, which is a more recent mecha game that takes more of a serious and complex approach to its combat, which is kind of odd. Other criticisms tend to be around the difficulty or lack thereof. On the positive side, people praise its simplicity compared to other mecha games, praising its visuals, satisfying gameplay, good performance, and fun co-op. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the genre myself. MechWarrior 4 was probably the last mecha game I played for any length of time, if that gives you any indication of what I'm into and how old I am. Though I must say Granvia is a recent indie title that I really enjoyed. For that fact, this one is probably a pass for me. Wizard with a Gun is a cooperative survival game that pits you and up to 3 of your wizardy friends up against waves of dangerous foes. As the name implies, the game takes a unique stance of combining fire magic with firearms, sending you out to gather resources in order to enhance your arsenal with enchanted guns and bullets, which can soon scale out of control as your magical powers grow. After all that, you can return home to spend those leftover resources you grinded for to build, craft, and terraform. The game was released in 2023 and currently sells for over $35, though it is, at the moment, on sale for just shy of $15. It should be noted that there are also a couple of paid content packs containing new recipes and cosmetics not included in this choice bundle. As you'd expect, this one is also Steam Deck verified. Overall, the game has received generally favourable reviews, 80% of which have been positive, dipping slightly in more recent times. For the most part, players enjoyed the simple gameplay loop and ability to play productively in both single player and co-op without feeling like they were missing out on anything. The ways that bullets and elements interact in fun ways with the environment was also raised as a cool standout feature, as did the replayability of the regularly refreshed world layout. On the flip side, many negative reviews were left by players who were led to believe this game, which was titled Wizard with a Gun, would be an explosive, action-packed experience. But they were let down to discover that it featured many of the standard survival crafting game tropes that left them managing their inventory or grinding for resources when they should have been exploding mobs. It seems like it could have been a fun experience, but I feel like I already have enough of this type of game in my regular rotation. I personally wouldn't be buying a bundle just on the back of this one. Neo Cab is an interactive visual novel experience which places you in the role of the last remaining human taxi driver in a futuristic dystopian setting. By chance, your friend has mysteriously disappeared on the very night of your first shift. Out on the road, your only sources of information are the people you pick up, and so you must learn about your passengers and engage in dialogue in order to get them to open up and share what they know with you if you have any hope of finding a friend. This is a strange game with some nice visuals and some weird, strong opinions that it shares. The game is approaching 6 years old now, and it usually sells for just over $20, but it is currently on sale for about $3.30. It is playable on the Steam Deck, but not verified. However, for a visual novel experience, a full compatibility may not be such a huge deal. Lifetime reviews are generally very positive, with an 80% lifetime positive rating. The game is divisive, with some reviewers praising the writing style, while others are strongly condemning it. Many see the game as having an overbearing and clumsy political agenda, while others find it to be an enlightening tool to help evaluate the relationships in their own lives. One aspect that is heavily criticised is that the dialogue choices can be completely locked out due to the emotional state of your character, teasing you with an option that might make the most sense to use, but forcing you to pick something else instead, which somewhat goes against the standard visual novel experience. This feels like the kind of game you'll either love or loathe, and I expect you'll be able to tell which side you're on just based on the screenshots and the description of the game. Definitely not one for me. Everafter Falls is a farming sim that promises to help you to rediscover the simple life. At first glance, this is nothing we haven't seen before. A simplistic 2D art style, a hotbar with a sword, pickaxe, fishing rod. Do a bit of farming, venture into the dungeon for a bit of fighting, expand your settlement and furnish your house, or help out the residents of the local town. How many games could I be describing right now? This game boasts split-screen co-op but doesn't seem to support online multiplayer, which is an odd choice. One point of difference here seems to be the progression system, which introduces the typical choose one of 3 perk cards feature that you'd usually see featured in a roguelike or survivors type game. This is another one that's classified as Steam Deck verified, which is great to see, and it sells for just under $30, currently down to $22 during the Steam sale. Since its release in early 2024, this one seems to have flown under the radar a little bit. It does have less than 360 reviews at the time of writing, but at least they're going at 86% positive. As you'd expect, there are a lot of comparisons to Stardew Valley, and not surprisingly, people do seem to prefer Stardew. But Everafter Falls does have the advantage of being able to introduce some quality of life improvements and other featured additions in an attempt to differentiate itself. People tend to enjoy the early game quite a lot, but the consistent criticism of the game is about how it becomes a very RNG heavy slog in the late game. Frankly, as someone who has been through my Stardew Valley obsession phase, I don't see anything here that makes me too excited. Finally, we come to Blanc, a beautifully stylized cooperative adventure game that takes place entirely in a hand-drawn black and white world. A fawn and a wolf cub become unlikely friends after becoming stranded after a snowstorm, and must learn to work together to survive the wilderness and solve puzzles in order to find their way back to their families. This game is all about that cooperative play, so having player 2 in person or online is a must. Interestingly, the recent reviews are 93% positive, while the lifetime reviews are sitting at just 75% positive, which is a little bit baffling and the opposite of what we might usually expect to see. Maybe this is a trend, and with the success of some other recent co-op-focused games such as Split Fiction or It Takes Two, there might be a growing audience of people looking for this kind of cooperative experience, but that's just my speculation. Reviewers love the art style, and the consensus is that this is a great game to play with your partner or family member. It's not particularly stressful or difficult, so your relationships should be safe and nobody should get too frustrated. However, many of the negative reviews point out that the game is quite short and unfortunately can be quite buggy or clumsy in terms of controls or camera movement. Concerningly, a number of reviews claim that the game also installs Epic Launcher software despite there being no mention or warning of this on the store page, so this is a concerning point if true. Now, I wasn't able to verify this myself, but as somebody who does not want anything to do with Epic or their software, this is a big no-no. It's worth doing some further research into this point if this is something that matters to you. While I appreciate the art style, it's probably not a game I'd go out of my way to play anyway.
Bummer, 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 bummer.
And there we have it, the Humble Choice bundle for July. It is quite a mixed bag this month, and once again it feels like there is no real flagship game to really sell the bundle. If anything, I feel like the overall quality has declined somewhat, and while a couple of games might interest me if I had them, none are standouts that compel me to really go out and grab the bundle. The major mid-year Steam sale is currently on, and while that changes the value proposition to some degree, knowing that most of these games are discounted, the simple rule remains the same. If at least one or two games in this bundle is on your wishlist, it's probably worth it for you. However, it's probably the perfect time to go spend that $15 odd on something you really want that's most likely on sale right now. So, what are your thoughts on the bundle this month? Is there anything there that you've been hanging out for that will make you pull the trigger? Let us know in the comments down below. This wraps up another month, and I hope you found this video useful in weighing up the games on offer in this edition of the Humble Choice bundle. I'll be back with another Smash or Pass next month, and I'll be covering some new games in between, so please consider subscribing and sticking around for more. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.